Welcome to Stoic Today, where truth cuts through illusion and healing begins with awareness. We're honored that you're here. This space is more than just a channel, it's a journey of reclaiming your power, finding your peace, and no longer settling for half-truths or hidden agendas. So before we begin, take just a few seconds of your precious time to click the subscribe button, leave a comment if something resonates, and become part of a growing community built on clarity, courage, and emotional freedom. Thank you truly for showing up for yourself. That alone is a powerful act of transformation. What narcissists feel after they've caused harm and why they'll do anything to keep you from hearing it. Like this video if you're ready to uncover what their silence is really hiding. Comment with the moment you stopped mistaking their stillness for strength. Subscribe to Stoic Today right now because healing starts with seeing clearly, and peace begins when you stop second-guessing your truth. Ready to go deeper? Click to watch the next video. The silence may be theirs, but the power is now yours. Have you ever felt the ground drop beneath you not from a stumble, but from betrayal so sharp, so stunning, that it shattered the way you see someone forever? That moment, when someone you trusted, maybe even loved, turns around and wounds you without remorse, especially when that someone is a narcissist, the pain is different. It's hollow and confusing, because they don't flinch, they don't apologize, they don't even look back. You're left staring at wreckage they caused, while they move on like it was nothing. But here's the twist. What if you could hear what they really felt after betraying you? Not the lies, not the silence, but the raw, unfiltered truth they hide even from themselves. Today, we go there. You're left shattered and they walk away like nothing happened. But what if? What if you could actually hear what they really feel after they betray you? Not the fake version, not the manipulative act. I'm talking about the raw, unfiltered truth they'll never say out loud. Today, we're going there. I'm pulling back the curtain on what's going on inside the mind of a narcissist after the betrayal and what it really means for you. Let's get real. Let's clear the biggest myth right now. Narcissists aren't emotionless. They do feel shame, insecurity, rage, fear. But here's the catch. They can't process those feelings like most people. While a healthy person reflects, regrets, and heals, a narcissist rewrites, represses, and reacts. Shame to them isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. It threatens the entire illusion they've built to survive. And because they can't face the truth, they twist it until the betrayal becomes your fault. That's not healing, it's self-preservation dressed as indifference. That's because they can handle being imperfect. They can tolerate the discomfort of owning their actions. A narcissist can't. The second shame creeps in, even a whisper of it, they go to war with it. Because to a narcissist, shame is more than uncomfortable, it's unbearable. It threatens the illusion they've built around themselves. And their illusion is everything. So instead of facing that shame, they bury it fast, brutally fast. They lie to themselves. They rewrite the story. They minimize what they did. It wasn't that bad. You're too sensitive. They brought it on themselves. They have to frame their betrayal as justified or even necessary, because the alternative, that would mean they're the problem. That would mean they did something cruel, something selfish, and the narcissist's ego will do anything to avoid that truth. You might be thinking, but they seem so calm after what they did, so unaffected, like it never even happened. And that's not because they didn't feel anything. It's because they went into damage control mode. Not with you, but with themselves. Their image matters more than your feelings. That mask they wear, it has to stay spotless. Even if deep down there's a flicker of guilt or self-disgust, they won't let it live long enough to grow. Instead, they'll lash out or deflect or go silent. Anything to avoid sitting in the consequences of their own behavior.
Supernatural rest. When people leave, she doesn't chase them. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She blesses them because she knows rejection is sometimes redirection. And yes, this kind of woman is often misunderstood. People with wrong motives get frustrated because they can't control her. They label her as difficult, distant, or proud. But they don't understand the price she paid to protect her spirit. She's not rude. She's guarded. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She's not cold. She's covered. There is a difference. Here's the truth. Every time betrayal touched her, it only made her better. She doesn't carry bitterness. She carries wisdom. Because God didn't just shield her from evil people. He used them to sharpen her discernment. They tried to bury her, but God used the dirt to grow her. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. So if you are that woman, stay hidden in His presence, stay sensitive to His voice, stay committed to your assignments. Because when God protects you, it is not always comfortable, but it is always intentional. The people who couldn't stay were never meant to walk with you. They were distractions on the road to your destiny. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. A woman who is protected by God does not rely solely on what people say. She is led by what the Spirit reveals. She has a divine sensitivity that allows her to discern the motives behind the message. Words can lie, but spirits cannot hide from truth. She listens beyond the surface, while others are caught up in charm, charisma, and clever speech. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She leans into the atmosphere, the tone, the energy, the presence that someone carries. This woman knows that not everyone who smiles is sincere, and not everyone who compliments her is clean. She has learned that the enemy rarely shows up in obvious forms. He often hides in kind words and gentle faces. This kind of woman has walked through enough deception to no longer be impressed by appearances. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Her discernment has been developed through pain, prayer, and process. God sharpened her spiritual ears so she could detect a lie in the middle of a beautiful sentence. Her protection is not paranoia. It is spiritual perception. She doesn't always confront or expose what she sees because protection isn't always loud. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Sometimes it's silent wisdom. She simply chooses not to open her life to spirits that carry confusion, jealousy, manipulation, or pride. She knows that some people come not to add to her journey but to derail it. And so when she senses something is off, even when everything looks perfect on paper, she listens to that nudge in her spirit. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. That nudge is the Holy Spirit guarding her from entanglement. She may walk away quietly. She may distance herself without explanation, because she trusts the discernment that God has placed within her. To others, she may seem distant or overly cautious, but in truth, she is guarded by divine insight because her purpose is too valuable to let just anyone get close. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. When a woman is protected by God, she doesn't always experience loud breakups or dramatic exits. Sometimes people just leave, conversations dry up, connections fade. Relationships that once felt close suddenly feel distant. And while it may confuse others, she feels an unexpected peace in the separation. This is not coincidence. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. It is divine intervention. God has a way of removing people without explanation when their presence becomes a threat to her destiny. She doesn't always get a reason, but she receives release. That release is proof that God saw what she couldn't see. She's not bitter. She's not angry. In fact, she finds herself more calm than she expected because the absence didn't bring chaos. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. It brought clarity. That's how she knows it was God. When He takes someone away, He replaces confusion with confirmation. There's no desire to chase, no need to beg for closure. She recognizes that divine protection sometimes looks like unanswered calls, ignored text, and unexplained silence. and instead of forcing what no longer flows, she lets go. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She trusts that her steps are ordered, and that detachment is often the doorway to preservation. This woman has learned to welcome the quiet exits. She's seen how God uses separation to save her from sabotage. She's experienced the grace that comes when heaven interrupts her connections before they become spiritual distractions. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. What others call rejection, she calls redirection. She knows that not every loss is a wound. Some are wings, wings that lift her higher, freer, and more focused. The peace she feels is natural. It's super. It's a kind of peace that passes understanding. And though people may wonder how she can be so calm after losing someone she once loved, she knows deep within she didn't lose them. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. God simply moved them to protect what He's building in her. A woman protected by God cannot be easily swayed by sweet words or emotional games. Her identity is not rooted in the approval of others, but in the assurance of who she is in Christ. She has grown beyond the need to be constantly affirmed by people because she has already been affirmed by her Creator. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Compliments don't confuse her, and attention doesn't distract her. She appreciates kindness, but she's not controlled by it. She has seen how flattery can be a tool of deception, how people use praise as bait, not as truth. And because of this, she does not melt at the sound of admiration. She evaluates the spirit behind the words. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. This woman has encountered manipulation dressed as love. She has been targeted by people who saw her light and tried to dim it with smooth talk and empty promises. But God has taught her through experience that not all kindness is pure and not all attention is sincere, so now she listens with her spirit before she listens with her ears. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She measures character, not charisma. She watches for consistency, not compliments. She looks for fruit, not flattery. She is not easily impressed because her soul is not empty. She is full, full of purpose, full of wisdom, full of discernment. And when a person tries to manipulate her through guilt, control, or praise, she sees it for what it is, a distraction from destiny. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She doesn't engage in emotional tug-of-wars. She doesn't argue to prove her worth. She simply stands in quiet strength, unmoved. The enemy cannot enter where affirmation already dwells. Her security in God makes her immune to manipulation. She no longer seeks validation. She walks in revelation. That is the mark of a woman heaven defense. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. A woman protected by God often finds her plans interrupted not by accident, but by divine intention. Things that were supposed to work out suddenly fall apart. Meetings get cancelled. Opportunities vanish. Doors close without warning. And while others see these disruptions as setbacks, she learns to recognize them as shields. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. God will block what she cannot see. He will frustrate her efforts when they are leading toward danger. To her, it may feel like confusion in the moment, but in the spirit, it's preservation because God is not just guiding her steps, He's also guarding her path. She may prepare for something with all her heart only to feel an unexplainable resistance when it's time to move forward. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. And instead of pushing past it, she pauses. She's learned that when God disrupts her plans, it's to redirect her steps. Divine interruptions are not signs of failure, they are signs of protection. The timing wasn't wrong, It was divine. The person didn't stay, not because she was enough, but because they weren't assigned. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. The door didn't open, not because she lacked favor, but because the room wasn't safe. This woman is sensitive to divine pauses. She's grown to trust that discomfort is sometimes a signal, not an obstacle. God will use the unsettled feeling in her spirit to speak louder than any external voice. So when things don't go her way, she leans in. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She prays, she listens, and she waits because she knows divine disruption is heaven's way of saying, not here, not now, not with them. Her protection comes not just in what God gives, but in what He withholds. He blocks what was never meant to build her. He delays what would have destroyed her. And in every disruption, He's delivering her from deception. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. When a woman is protected by God, she is graced with a peace that surpasses understanding, especially when it's time to walk away. She doesn't always get closure. She doesn't always get apologies, but she does receive something greater, divine peace. It's the kind of peace that settles deep in her spirit even while everything around her seems uncertain. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She may walk away from friendships, relationships, environments, or opportunities that once felt meaningful, but she does so with calm assurance because she knows when God says, leave, obedience is safety. This peace is not born out of emotion, it's born out of revelation. She has learned to trust the still small voice within her more than the noise outside of her. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. And when that voice says it's time to go, she doesn't wrestle with guilt or fear. She doesn't beg to stay in places where her spirit no longer thrives. She doesn't try to convince people to see her worth. She simply follows the peace. That peace is her confirmation. That peace is her permission. That peace is her protection. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. There was a time when walking away felt like loss, but now it feels like alignment. She understands that peace is the language of the Holy Spirit. And if a place, a person, or a path steals her peace, it's not from God. So she no longer waits for things to break before she lets them go. She walks away before disrespect becomes a pattern. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Not in pride but in wisdom. Not in anger but in wholeness. To others her silence may seem cold, but to her it is sacred. It's her way of honoring what God has spoken in her heart. She doesn't need drama. She doesn't need a crowd. She just needs confirmation from heaven. And once she has that, her steps are firm and her heart is still. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. A woman protected by God is not easily understood by those who come with hidden agendas. She carries herself with quiet strength, and that strength intimidates those who can't control her. She set boundaries without apology, and those who seek to manipulate see her as difficult. But the truth is she's not difficult. She's discerning. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She's not arrogant, she's aware, and because she refuses to bend to unhealthy expectations, people with wrong motives label her as proud, cold, or stubborn. But what they call pride, heaven calls protection. This woman no longer lives for approval. She lives by assignment. She doesn't allow just anyone access to her emotions, her time, or her spirit. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She knows her value. She knows her calling. And because of that, she becomes a threat to anyone who thrives on control or confusion. When she doesn't respond the way they want her to, they accuse her of being too much or too distant. But she's not reacting from emotion. She's moving with intent. She's protecting the oil she carries. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Often the people who misunderstand her are the very ones who were never meant to walk closely with her. They entered her life with masks, charming on the outside but manipulative underneath. And when she doesn't fall for the performance, when she sees through the facade, they get offended. They call her hard-hearted, but she's just spirit-led. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She refuses to engage in emotional games because she knows the cost of distraction. She doesn't explain herself anymore. She lets her fruit speak. She understands that those who are sent by God will honor her discernment, not resent it. She no longer feels the need to shrink herself to make others feel comfortable. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. Her clarity offends the authentic. That is why God continues to surround her, shield her, and sanctify her. Because her life is not for performance, it is for purpose. A woman protected by God does not crumble under betrayal. She rises. Every time someone turns their back on her, lies about her, or walks away without cause, something sacred happens within her. Her life is not left to chance. Every pause, redirection, and exit has been divinely orchestrated for her protection and her purpose. She doesn't become bitter. She becomes wiser. She doesn't shrink, she sharpens. Because betrayal in the hands of God becomes a tool for transformation. It may pierce her heart in the moment, but it cannot poison her destiny. What was meant to break her only builds her. She understands now that betrayal is often a divine revelation. Her life is not left to chance. Every
feel good about themselves, and when you stopped giving it, or when they found someone else who could give it more intensely or with less resistance, the switch flipped that quick. There's no grief, no pause, no processing. They don't need time to heal because they weren't emotionally invested to begin with. They were strategically attached. That's a huge difference. So, when they move on fast, posting new photos, jumping into another serious relationship, acting like they've never been happier, don't confuse it with growth or recovery. It's not healing, it's replacing, it's distraction, it's a desperate attempt to avoid the void that opens when their source of attention disappears. That new person isn't a soulmate. They're a mirror just like you were, and when that mirror stops reflecting back the image the narcissist wants to see, the cycle will repeat. It's also why closure is so impossible with them, because in your mind, the connection was real. You replay the good moments. You look for the meaning. You grieve the potential. But for them, it was a performance, a carefully constructed dynamic that served their needs until it didn't. And when it stopped serving them, they cut the cord. No explanation, no real conversation, just emotional disappearance. It's not because they're heartless, it's because they don't process emotions the way most people do. They don't feel attachment as commitment, they feel it as control. And what makes it worse, they want you to see them move on fast. It's part of the control. They know it will hurt. They know it will leave you questioning your worth. That's intentional because if you're sitting there wondering how could they replace me so fast, then they still have power. That's the final form of the manipulation. Emotional erasure, acting like you never mattered, like you were a placeholder in their story. While you were left with the wreckage, the unanswered questions, and the deep ache of something that felt painfully real to you, the truth is, it was never about true connection. Not in the way you define connection with honesty, vulnerability, and mutual respect. To them, it was about access. What did you provide? How did you make them feel? Did you inflate their ego, reinforce their self-image, offer constant attention or admiration? That's what they were truly attached to, not you as a person, but the function you served in their world. That's why they could replace you so quickly, so effortlessly, without even blinking. It's not because you weren't enough. It's not because what you shared wasn't meaningful to you. It's because it was never about love, it was always about supply. And until you fully understand that, you'll keep blaming yourself. You'll keep wondering what you did wrong. You'll keep thinking, if I had been more patient, if I had just done more, if I had loved them better, they would have stayed. but that is the trap. The painful truth? You could have been perfect, gentle, supportive, unwavering, and they still would have discarded you. Because they weren't searching for a partner to grow with. They were searching for a mirror to reflect back exactly what they wanted to see. And the moment that mirror stopped flattering them, the moment it cracked under truth or boundaries, they simply found another. It was never about you failing, it was about them refusing to see anyone as more than a reflection of their own ego. If this truth hits something deep in your soul, let this be your wake-up call, not your breakdown. Like this video if you're ready to stop blaming yourself. Comment with the truth you needed to hear today. Subscribe to Stoic today, right now, because your healing begins the moment you stop internalizing their emptiness. Ready to reclaim your voice? Click to watch the next video. The most powerful version of you is rising and they won't see it coming.